Hello there guys, it's Joey and this video is going to be healing past feelings of invalidation. And before I get into that, just get comfy. There are going to be videos for the YouTube Pagan Challenge for last week and this week. I'm going to catch up. I was a bit behind with getting all the orders out that while I had a week off that I was slightly behind, so that's all done. We're back up to date. I'm going full out on requests and things, so that will all be done and I'll catch up on what I am behind on. So I'm still alive, just about. Also going to have some news in a day or two, upcoming videos. There's going to be some goodness for everybody else. There's going to be updates for me and a lot going on right now. So there you go. Some of that hopefully in the next few days. So let's just get into this video, why I wanted to make this video and really why I felt the need to talk about invalidation. Now, it's actually a real personal issue. It's really close to my heart. So I'm going to start off by saying this is my unicorn box that was inspired by Miss Molly for her speak, and I will try and remember to link the video down below if you don't know about the unicorn box and its healing implications and practices. But I'm going to take a piece of paper out that means something to me because I wrote it, and it's part of the identifying problems that you're having and healing past them and empowering yourself and looking at things which cause you pain in your life and how to move past it, how to go crazy with the lighting because it's driving you nuts, how to look at these issues, and once you've identified them and really sat down and considered them and discussed them, and then moving past them, how to sort of work on it. And invalidation is something which comes up in so many different ways, and there's been a lot of it recently where people feel that they have been coming under fire by people trying to invalidate their opinions, feelings, and so on and so forth. And I was like, I should have done this video a week ago. It would have been so topical. But I'm slightly behind, like I said, so we're going to do it now. So the little slip, this is something that I wrote and put in my box, and I've been using the unicorn box of glitter, box of goodness, to try and help heal me and remind me that who I am is someone worth being, because I think we all go through days and we have self-doubt, we have low self-confidence sometimes. I suffer with, depression and anxiety, and I've openly said this on many occasions, and it can be a real bind. It can be really difficult to cope in some circumstances, and invalidation is one of those things which truly has caused me so much grief over the years. And I've got red going through my hair and it's keep catching my eye. It's natural, it's in my family. Right, okay. So the little piece of paper says, other people cannot invalidate my worth no matter who it is. So that may be backwards. I'm not sure if it'll flip it in the thingy process. It should do. And my dreams are worth fighting for is another one that I want to. And the final one I'll share is living my dream is worthwhile. So there's obviously other things in there slightly more personal than that, and those are three that I feel happy to share. And why I want to talk about this in terms of healing is because I don't think people really stop and think about how much invalidation can damage both themselves and other people, because this is something I think that all of us are guilty of at one point or in another. And it's not always meaning to come across as an invalidation, and I'm going to touch on that in a bit, that, sometimes we say things to other people and we mean well, and sometimes we think people are trying to invalidate us, and actually they're not. They're just trying to help. They're trying to point out a situation which we really need to consider, and we need to take that on board, I think, when we talk about invalidation, that not all concerns are attack, I guess, is what I am trying to arrive at, inarticulately apparently, because I've been off camera for too long and my brain isn't working. It never works. Who are we kidding? Right, so invalidation. What is invalidation? What are we talking about, Joe? What are you on about? Well, invalidation is when somebody, be it ourselves or be it somebody else, basically levels a value judgment at something about us and tries to make us feel that it's not worthwhile for us to be doing X, or we're not worthwhile, or something that we believe in isn't going to work because, or something that we're doing is wrong because. And I've talked a little bit about the idea of people putting their right and wrong judgment on other people recently, and it's interesting to me that, you know, no matter how balanced you try and discuss these things, some people will automatically see you even discussing it as an attack. So it's worth bearing in mind that one's reaction to something tells us more about the person reacting than it does anything else. Because, I mean, you know, you call somebody, you be rude to somebody, you be nasty to somebody, and they're not expecting it, and they're really upset by it. Well, because they thought you were a friend, that's, you know, break of trust. That's what that's showing. It's not always, you know, showing a fault in the other person. It's indicative of the emotional state of the person and the mental state of the person who is reacting. It's not always necessarily a negative thing. So, invalidation. I come up against invalidation a lot. I come up against those who try and tell me that my way of being, my way of living, my way of believing, my spirituality, my business, my heart-centered business, the way I process, the way I talk, the way I look, all of it is wrong. I've had all of it attacked at some point or another. And it's really quite disheartening. It really does feel awful. And I grew up with this. I grew up being told, oh, you can't do this. It's not a real job. You can't do that. You'll never get anywhere. Or you'll never make a living. You'll never survive. Blah, 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 blah. And that's a parental thing. So it's ingrained, unfortunately. And constant self-doubt is the consequence of this, the sort of nervousness that I feel occasionally, even now. And it's like, to this day, there are some people in business, for example, because it's the easiest example, who will go out there and they'll make contacts and they'll say, hey, let's do this, and hey, do you want to do an interview, and hey, and I always feel huge trepidation doing that, because I feel like I am putting on other people, and I don't like the feeling. And I don't know if it's a mixture of Virgo-ness, me, my personal experiences, or what, but I feel huge amounts of trepidation putting myself out there and advertising and all this stuff. And, you know, people will try and invalidate that. And the business is actually something which somebody else brought up and was talking about in a group in which I'm part of, where, you know, there's this invalidation coming from other people who are trying to put them off following what their dream is. And I've had this from people that you wouldn't expect, that, you know, oh, it's not worthwhile, or it's not a real job, or you're going to have to get a real job, you know, this, that and the other. And it's so disheartening. It breaks my heart sometimes, the people that, you know, say it, and they make out that what you're doing is not worth it, like it's silly or less meaningful because you're not in the 9-to-5 rat race or whatever. And I don't want to be in the 9-to-5 rat race. I think it's the biggest lie going. I think it's soul crushing. I couldn't do it. I couldn't work 9 to 5 in a job I hate to pay for stuff that's a status symbol just to go back. You know, that meme which is on about, you know, that you're working yourself to death for the clothes you're wearing and the car you're driving just to go back to the place which you hate and you're working, and it's just this vicious, nasty cycle. I don't want to do it. I want to be following a life, living a life, and following a heart-centered, spirit-centered business that I believe in so wholeheartedly that it means something to me. And I think a lot of us, as pagans, as witches, come up against invalidation for our spiritual path out of ridicule, usually. There is also hatred, there is also sort of snarkiness, there is also sort of the undermining of one's spiritual path. Oh, well, how do you know? Is my favourite. I had someone try to do this recently through someone else, so they were trying to make this someone else invalidate my path because they were trying to put doubt in their head. It's just this insidious nastiness, and I was like, wow, that is low levels of sneak, and it is low. And it was basically, oh, well, you don't know who they're talking to. You don't know, they might not be talking to Morrigan, they might be talking to some other spirit. How do they know? I was just like, okay. And this is a person of spiritual path, supposedly, as well, so it's not like people who just don't believe in anything. And I'm a live and let live person with different spiritual paths for the most part. I don't appreciate being attacked, obviously. I don't appreciate the sneakiness either. If it was, you know, a honest question from one person who came to me themselves, but it wasn't. It was like causing rifts and things. It was just unpleasant. So that is a form of invalidation, the kind of the passive-aggressive invalidation, and I think that is rife, and it's unfortunate. It's ugly. It's ugliness, and I really don't like the whole thing. It's like we can talk, we can discuss, we can agree to disagree. It's fine. We don't all have to walk the same path up the mountain, as the saying goes. You know, it doesn't make anybody right. It doesn't make anybody wrong. But the minute that you're trying to invalidate somebody's life choices, somebody's spirituality, somebody's sexuality, somebody's gender, somebody's life, it becomes this very nasty mess of things. It becomes, it's almost like this active pursuit, and some people sort of turn it into one of their personal hobbies to try and invalidate people's systems of beliefs, you know, and people are learning and feeling, and we're all human, for goodness sake. We're all doing the best we can with what we've got, and people really do try and invalidate without really trying to consider what the individual is going through, where they've come from, what they've been through, why their reactions are so completely different to another individual. And this comes into sharp relief in my mind with regards to past relationships. So I've mentioned that the big love of my life, the first big love of my life, when everything happened to me, he told me to just get over it. And this is kind of an invalidation which has never left, because it hurt. It hurt then. It still hurts now when I think back on it. And I'm like, I was in so much pain, and the whole of my pain and all that I'd been through, and it's abuse, it's years and years of abuse, was filtered down in his mind to, you're overreacting, just get over it. And I look back on that with kind of like shock, like, yeah. And anybody who's been through it, and anybody who's suffered through any kind of trauma, will tell you that it's not like that. It's not click your fingers and you're fine. And my family tried to pull that crap on me as well, like, oh well, it was X years ago, it's fine, it's over it, we're over it now. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. You don't get a free pass on bad behaviour because it's X amount of years ago. You either make amends or you don't. So there you go. But these are just examples of invalidation and how traumatizing really invalidation can be. Because it comes into feelings of self-doubt, obviously, and then undermining of one's confidence, and you start to question whether you're right, whether you're wrong, whether you're doing the right thing. It's basically people invalidating sort of puts fear into you. And I've talked about fear a lot recently, and like overcoming fear and not wanting to follow the paths of fear anymore. Unfortunately, certain paths are blocked off because of other people's fear, and there's nothing I can do about that right now. So I am just addressing all the things to do with me that I can address and healing through them. And invalidation as a form of sort of perpetuating fear onto somebody is really cruel when you think about it. Like, people have enough self-doubt just because they're human. People have worries and fears of being outside the box, being different, being alone. We all have those fears of, not fitting in, not connecting, not having friends, not having a partner, not all these things of connection to other people. And that's where feelings of invalidation really start to hurt us, because it's other people sort of abusing connections to other people to make other people feel small or make people feel wrong. And it can be really difficult, the courage of your convictions, to follow through on the things that you believe in. I've actually gotten to the point now where I'm not going to give up my dreams for anybody. And I've had enough of people trying to tell me, oh, well, just get over it. Or, oh, well, you're wrong. Or, oh, well, you're fruit-de-loop for believing in something. Oh, well, and it comes about all over the place. You have people trying to undermine you because of your ancestry. I've had that recently. Trying to make out that you're loop-de-loop because you believe in spirits and you believe in the energies of plants and things. That makes you crazy, apparently. I've had that recently too. And I just think it's small-minded. I think it's people trying to cause other people to not investigate, to not soul search, to not seek their highest spiritual truth in that circumstance, or not seek their true life path in all forms, be it sexuality, be it your business, be it what you want to do. And so many artistic creative types they attempt to crush artistic creative types under the wheel. Oh, you can't live being an artist, and things of this nature are the highest expression of the human soul. There's something that lasts throughout time. It's things that are deeply meaningful art, and I'm trying to think of other artistic examples, because art obviously spans over more than just paintings or drawings or whatever, but they still have museums to the great painters to this day, and that this is an expression of soul that goes throughout time and touches human beings on a level which sometimes we don't fully understand, but it connects us to other people. It's that connection of those that we were talking about, connection to human resonance, to understanding, to feeling, to expression, to a soulful purpose. And invalidation is really, I don't know, it's just so often it's so sneaky. It's like, oh well, I don't think you should do this because I mean you could fail, couldn't you? And then what are you going to do? Now at this point I am going to point out that sometimes people come to us and sort of they have concerns about our well-being, and perhaps looking back on it we are like and we have to really again put ourselves in their shoes and really consider why they're telling us what they're telling us. So I think the easiest example is when we're with somebody who's not right for us and somebody is telling us that and we might not like it. We probably don't like it. And this is usually one of these situations where we look back on it and gone, I wish I'd have listened. I wish I'd have listened. They had my best interests and I was an arse because I didn't want to listen. And should have listened. That's not really invalidation when people are doing that. That's concern for your well-being. That's, you know, I don't think this guy is great for you, he's cheating on you, or whatever. You know, that's an easy example just because it's, you know, easy. And so many people are quick to sort of dismiss people, and you know, anything they don't like, they suddenly, you know, write people off, and I'm very against that. I've talked about being against that before. I think that we're so quick to the sort of dismissal of people that we want to be careful that we're not being, you know, that we're not turning into the ones that are invalidating other people, basically, because they're trying to come to us out of a place of concern, and rather than listen to them and take that on board and know that they are concerned for us, we are invalidating all of that by saying, you know, you don't know, you're not involved, you're not in the relationship, I don't care. And I understand that, you know, we're opinionated sons of bitches. We are. A lot of us are. And we like to think that we know ourselves completely. And a lot of us don't feel that we can admit that we were wrong. And we don't want to think that we're wrong. And like I said in the, you know, a previous video, you know, the first mistake we ever make is thinking that being wrong is wrong, because it's not. It's just what you do with it from that point on. It's just like you either take that on board, you admit it to yourself, you apologise if appropriate, you really apologise, and then you shift the behaviour, you change the behaviour, because if you're still engaging in it, then in the same cycle, then it's not moving forward, it's not changing the situation, and you generally only go back to a situation over and over because you need a different outcome. You need to learn the lesson to change it, to not follow the same cycle over and over again. Sometimes that's achievable, sometimes it's not, because it's in the hands of other people, and you can't obviously control how other people behave, and nor should you want to. But invalidation is what that's about. It's basically trying to control how other people behave and see themselves, and it's not good, and it's something that we need to consider when we really think about why we are advising people one way or another. I find myself doing this a lot. I find myself weighing up what I want to say, because I'm a firm believer in truth, and truth is one of those subjects which a lot of people don't like very much, because you basically can use the truth to really cut to the bone of a situation, and you can hurt people with the truth. It's easy to do, and I'd rather hear the truth and be hurt by it than have a, you know, have a lie. In the long run, in the long run, in the short term, it can be a bit upsetting, obviously, but it's better to know the truth. And some people disagree with me completely, because they'd rather go along in the calm sea rather than have the truth in their face. They don't want to, you know, they don't want to hear it, basically. And this is why invalidation to me is sort of like a sneaky insertion of a false belief. It's basically lying to somebody to manipulate them. And I don't like it. I don't like this whole, oh, well, do you really think that you're doing the right thing? Oh, do you really think that they're telling the truth? Oh, do you really think... It's like basically trying to slide in power. You're trying to slide in opinion. You're trying to influence. You're trying to manipulate, and it's ugly. I don't like it. And I always check what advice I'm giving and saying, and why I'm giving and saying it. So if I'm put in a situation where somebody asks my opinion for something, and I'm if I give this opinion, is this going to hurt people's feelings? Because I don't really want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't, you know, it's not something that I'm going out of my way to do. I don't. But I can be a little bit brazen with the truth. I can be a little bit brash with the truth, and as diplomatic as I can be, sometimes I'm completely not diplomatic, and I look back on it and I'm like, I didn't think they were going to react like that, but I can see why they did react like that, and now I feel like an arse. That happens to me a few times, quite a lot actually, just because I didn't empathise as much as I could have done, and I feel bad about that. But that is the point. I don't want to invalidate somebody and what they're trying to do, as long as it's honest and above board and honourable, because I'm not going to validate people who are behaving like below board. Basically, if it's negative, nasty behaviour, I'm not going to validate that behaviour. That's just as bad as invalidating. But what I'm basically getting at is we can only lead by example. We cannot tell somebody how to lead their life. We don't know what they've been through. They don't know their experiences. We don't know how they react to things, why they react to things. Survivors of trauma, which I can attest to, react differently than people who have not. They're more likely to be hesitant, they're more likely to be non-committal, they're more likely to be apprehensive, they're more likely to need reassurance, they're more likely to need to feel out the situation and know the truth before committing to anything. And signs of lying and signs of sort of mucking about are going to set you back with people who have been lied to, who have suffered trauma and have survived. It's not obviously everybody, that's I can't speak for every survivor of trauma, but these are statements which I feel strongly apply to myself at least, and I feel that other people out there may well relate to that, knowing that if they've been through something, then it affects how they react, and it can affect how they react for life. And that's something that we work through and we process, and it's not a negative thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just who we are and how we have survived and how we choose to grow. So my final sort of area of wanting to cover is talking about healing past it. So obviously we have the box, and the box, as I said, you know, other people cannot invalidate my worth. No matter who it is, no matter who it is, because quite frequently the people who really put invalidation into our heads are people that we care about. This, basically. It's not that it is necessarily a conscious choice to become invalidated. It's not something you want to be blaming yourself for, because if you're blaming yourself for it, then you're just harming yourself even more. But you need to take on board why it hurts. What about the invalidation is harming you or hurting you? Why is it playing into your self-doubt? And then take a good hard look at that self-doubt. Are you in a situation that you don't fully believe in? So in terms of a business, you've got, especially a heart-centered business, and especially like by yourself type business, you have to believe in it 110%. It has to be your passion. It has to be what sets your soul ablaze and makes you think, you know, this is me. This is what I want to do. Because you're going to have days when you want to give up. You're going to have days where everything's going to crap. You're going to have days where you're just thinking, and you've got to get past that with the passion that you have and the belief that you have for what it is you're doing. And if you don't have that passion, and if you don't fully believe in something, then that invalidation is tapping into a fear which perhaps has a root in something that needs to be examined realistically and evaluated. Like, is the fear just unwarranted completely? I don't think any fear is completely unwarranted, but is it, in terms of, you know, let's look at it from a real life perspective. Is this what I want? Is this what I want to be doing? Is this where I want to be going? Is this where I want to be pursuing? Is this where I want to be in 5 years' time? Is this going to take me where I want to go? Is this my dream? Is this what is my highest truth? Because if you believe in it 110%, then feelings of invalidation from other people are going to sting possibly, but they're not going to derail you. And I think that's the difference. But it takes a time, it takes process, and it takes realization to get to the point where you don't allow invalidation to derail you, because it's so easy for it just to get under your skin. Like I said, it's some of the sneakiest stuff I've ever heard of recently, which is basically, oh well, I think this person's wrong and you shouldn't listen to them anymore because they don't know what they're doing. And it's like, do you know me? Have you been through my life? Are you in my head? Are you sat on my cupboard listening to my life experience, seeing what I see, feeling what I see? No, no then. God. And I think laughter is a good way to go with invalidation. I think it can be one of the most healing processes there is. Firstly, when people don't deserve a say in your life, they don't get to invalidate you, that's the first thing. They don't get a say. They don't get a say in your life, it's yours. If they're trying to help you, like I said, you've got to evaluate where it's coming from. So if it's just, some outside person that has no effect on your life and they have no right to be getting at you, picking at you, value judging you just because they think they can, just because they think they're superior, just because they're bored, I don't know, then you just turn around and you don't get a say. It doesn't have to be nastier than that, you just don't get a say. For people who you love and are closer to you and are welcome in your life and are welcome to have an opinion, within reason, then you need to evaluate where it's coming from a little bit more. But you also need to evaluate your own behaviour, and this is something which I look at when I'm doing it, and I advise everybody else to be doing, is to look at why you feel the need to express said opinion about anything else which is not directly to do with you. Basically, you really need to take a good hard look at that and think, is this necessary? And is it kind? So, that's it for this video. Many blessings.